Welcome to Calvary Church with Skip Heitzig. We're so glad you've joined us today. The ongoing violence of war has become the soundtrack of childhood for children in Israel and the Palestinian territories. But amid the violence and suffering, God is opening doors for Reload Love to continue the mission to arm these children with hope. Today, we'll hear an interview with Lenya Heitzig and Pastor Munir, the pastor of a church in Ramallah, and hear a special message from Pastor Skip Heitzig.
Would you turn in your Bibles, please, then to Matthew chapter 5, first book in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 5. When you want to destroy something, you drop a bomb. When you want to heal something or you want to heal someone, you drop a love bomb. And we've been dropping the love bomb for the last 10 years to different people groups around the world to show the lavish love of Christ in tangible ways. It has been estimated that more than 100 million love songs have been recorded. When I read that, I said, that can't be right. That's so huge. 100 million love songs have been recorded. Of course, in our culture, some of the love songs, in fact, a lot of them, have to do with breakup. So failed love, incomplete love, breakdown of love. Jesus told his disciples, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another." But then he added, "And by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, by the love that you have one for another." I've always found that an interesting statement because it sounds as though Jesus is giving permission to the unbelieving world to see if we're real or not by our love. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, by the love you have one for another. But it makes perfect sense because God is invisible, and the only thing that would make him visible to an onlooker is that his people embody the very virtue and characteristic that is most important to him, which is love. I mean, how else would they know that God is real? He didn't say, by your t-shirts, all men will know that you are my disciples. By your bumper stickers, all men will know that you're my disciples. By your huge Bibles that you carry around, will people know that you're my disciples? He didn't say by your theology they will know, or by your intellectual acumen and apologetic prowess will all men know that you're my disciples. In fact, I've discovered people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And Love Bomb is a way that we can tangibly show people in underserved circumstances the love of God. I read a story about the early Christian church, 2nd century. It came from a historian by the name of Tertullian. Tertullian noted that the Roman Empire was very skittish about Christian churches popping up all around. They distrusted them. They didn't know what they were up to. So in their skepticism, they sent spies into different congregations just to watch and report what was going on. One of these spies came back and made his official report. He said, "These Christians are really strange. They meet together in a room, an empty room. They talk about a guy named Jesus who's not there, but whom they expect to show up at any moment." But what this spy remarked on was the love, because he said, "And my, how they love him and how they love one another." So what was palpable, what was memorable to this spy is that this is a group of people that dares to show lavish love to others. Well, I want to look with you in the brief time that I have this morning to look at a passage, a familiar passage in Matthew chapter 5. We're going to begin in verse 13. And I'd like to point out three aspects of the Christian life, and that is our world, our walk, and our work. Our world, our walk, and our work. Let's look at verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. The first aspect is our world. Our world is dark. Now that's implied by this text. It's implied in the very analogy that Jesus employs, the metaphors of salt and light. 2,000 years ago, they didn't have refrigeration, they didn't have freezers, so if you went to the meat market and bought meat, immediately it started to decay. The only way to preserve meat was to rub salt in it. Salt was an antiseptic, a disinfectant. It stopped the corrosion. So to say you are the salt of the earth implies something about the world into which you are put, and that is, it's a corrupt world. It's a decaying world. It's a rotting world. Then the second one that he used is you are the light of the world, which implies the world is therefore dark. Jesus said, this is the condemnation. Light has come into the world, but men love darkness rather than light. So he is implying that the world is spiritually dark, morally dark, and needs light. Now you might think, well, 2,000 years ago, it really wasn't all that dark, was it? I mean, yes, today with the culture that we have around the world and the rampant crime, et cetera, today's a dark world, but 2,000 years ago, certainly not. Well, the world into which Jesus came crucified him. The world into which he came expelled the church from Jerusalem. The world into which Jesus came had the Roman Empire, which executed tens of thousands of Christian believers. They, as I said, were skeptical of them. Christians were accused of subversion against the Roman government because they refused to put a pinch of incense with a libellus that said, Caesar is Lord. There were rumors about believers 2,000 years ago. Here's one. The Romans said that Christians were cannibals because of the Lord's Supper, celebrating the body and blood of the Lord Jesus and taking the elements. They said they're practicing cannibalism. Also, the rumor was that believers were incestuous because they referred to one another as brother and sister. So all of these rumors gave them cause, justification in their minds, to persecute the early church. So the world was and is dark. It has no light of its own. It is decaying. It is rotten. People are stumbling blindly through life and they need light. Would you agree with that? When you read the news or watch the news feeds or read something about something happening in different parts of the world, do you walk away from the news saying, boy, we live in a pure, wholesome world? There's so much hope abounding everywhere. No, you don't. In our own country, one person is murdered every 31 minutes. One person is raped every 2.7 minutes. One person is assaulted every 7.2 seconds. One home is burglarized every 2.3 seconds. One child is abused or neglected every 35 seconds. and terrorism worldwide is up 22% from the previous years. So our world is dark, and that is implied by the choice of language. You are the salt, you are the light. But also, it doesn't just imply something about our world, but something about us. Yes, our world is dark, but the second aspect is our walk is different. Our walk is different. If ever there was a statement that should cause us to lift our heads high and stand up straight and think, man, what a noble calling it is to be a Christian, it is this. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. This should make us stand up and sing, onward, Christian soldiers, not armed with bullets and bombs, but armed with his love. This doesn't make us hunker down and put our head between our legs and want the storm to pass quickly. No, this makes us want to get involved. You and I are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Okay, so a few characteristics about light. Light is fast. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. So it takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for a beam of light leaving the sun to hit the earth, because it's 93 million miles away. But because light is so fast, it's almost instantaneous. So light travels fast, but visible light is part of a spectrum. I remember this from my college days. I had to study the electromagnetic spectrum. That's the platform of wavelength radiation all the way from radio waves to gamma rays, and a very small percentage, in fact, 0.0035 of all of that light is visible light. So we see visible light, but it's visible light that makes everything around us accessible and visible. So Jesus is saying to his disciples, you are the light of the world. In the Greek language, it's in the emphatic plural. It would better read this way: you and you alone are the salt of the earth. You and you only are the light of the world. It's quite a thing to say. It's as if he's saying the world has absolutely no hope unless you step up and shine your light. Now, I know some of you are Bible students and you go, well, I disagree. I disagree because Jesus said he was the light of the world, right? John chapter 8, I'm the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. Yes, he did say that, but keep reading, because after John chapter 8 is, tell me, John chapter 9. Very good. John chapter 9, listen to what Jesus said, and you'll put it all together. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Now it makes sense. Jesus is the light of the world, but the light has left. He ascended to the right hand of the Father. And before he left, he said to his disciples, you and you only are the light of the world. I am, but now you are. So the relationship is like this. It's like the sun to the moon. The moon has no light of its own. The moon simply reflects the light that the sun shines upon it, bounces off the moon, and 1.2 seconds later, it hits the earth. So just as the moon is a reflector of the sun, Christians are a reflector of the Son of God. We reflect his life. Listen, here's our job: glow in the dark. That's the Christian's job description: glow in the dark. Yes, the world is dark. Yes, the world is in a mess. Guess what? Whenever there's a mess, the answer is a messenger with a message being injected into the middle of the mess and glowing in the dark, reflecting his light. You know, sometimes we complain, well, the world is getting darker and darker. I think the issue is you should shine and I should shine brighter and brighter, not blocking the light. So we should be bringing the message of hope, the gospel, and then demonstrating the gospel by our love. Now, a couple things about light. For light to be effective, light has to be seen, has to be noticed. Jesus put it this way: a city that is set upon a hill cannot be hidden. Ancient cities were often built on hills for a few reasons. Number one, they would be up higher so the breezes would blow and cool them off in the afternoon. Number two, and principally for protection, you can fortify something on a hill much easier. You can see the enemy trying to come up the hill, and so you can build walls and protect it. So cities were often built on hills. In Galilee, where Jesus spoke these words, many of the cities were built on hills. In fact, there is a city, if we were there, I could show you at night. There's a city that we believe Jesus was actually referring to when he talked about a city set upon a hill. It's still in existence today. It's the little town in the hills of Galilee called Safed. It is set up on a hill so that people can navigate around the Sea of Galilee by looking at that city. It is the city set upon a hill that cannot be hid. And then he continues, nor do they light a lamp and then put a basket over it, but they put it up on a lampstand. Now he's talking about inside the home at night. And it gives light to all who are in the house. So light has to be seen, which means we, the light of the world, need to be around darkness. We have a task that can only be employed in darkness. Would it be effective after church today to go get your flashlight while the sun is beating brightly all around you to take out to shine it on the ground to find your way? No, it'd be a waste of a battery because there's so much light all around you. So, likewise, we as Christians, though it's fun to get together and shine our lights as we sing and go through the Bible together, this is an important thing, don't get me wrong. But the real value is once we disperse out into the community, out into the darkness, and make a difference. Here's why. Light invades whatever space it is introduced into. In whatever space you put light, it will invade that space. Christians ought to do the same. We should invade every space we're introduced into. Our workspace, our family space, our neighborhood space, the political space, every space we're introduced into, we should make a difference. John Stott wrote these words, and I'm going to put it on the screen. If the house is dark at night, there's no sense in blaming the house. That's what happens when the sun goes down. The question to ask is, where is the light? If society becomes corrupt like a dark night or a stinking fish, salt of the earth, there's no sense in blaming society. That's what happens when fallen human society is left to itself and human evil is unrestrained and unchecked. The question to ask is, where is the church? So the light has to be seen. City set up on a hill cannot be hid. Also, light reveals what darkness conceals. Light reveals what darkness hides. When it's dark, everything looks great. You're going around the house at night and go, man, this house looks really clean. Really turn on all the lights. You may get a different picture. Everything looks clean. It's called mood lighting, right? So, ooh. And we love mood lighting. We look at ourselves when it's really softly lit and go, wow, I look pretty good. And then you get a sunlight view and it's all over after that. Now, this is where we need to be careful. Because light reveals darkness, people living in darkness don't like it when you turn on the light. Just like if their eyes grow accustomed to a dark room and you turn on a bright overhead, they will flinch and they will squint and they will wince because they hurt. It hurts to have that bright light around them. So we have to be careful as we turn on the light and shine the light, because a large majority of the people don't like it. Listen to what Jesus said. Everyone who practices evil hates the light. Neither will they come to the light lest their deeds should be exposed. So that puts us in a very precarious position as we are living out our light in the midst of a dark world. So light has to be seen, but light reveals what the darkness hides. But perhaps the best thing about light is it shows the way out of darkness. And that takes us to our third aspect. The first being our world is dark. The second, our walk is different. The third concerns our work. Our work is demonstrated. Verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, notice in that verse the relationship between shining your light and doing good works. Shining your light means doing good works. Shine your light in such a way that people will see those good works. Now, last week we mentioned that nobody is saved by good works. And if you say that you're saved by faith plus works, you're diminishing from the gospel. So we're not saved by works, but once we are saved, guess what? Good works are a part of that. Good works will flow from a saved life. So then, shining your light is related to doing good works. Also notice, when you shine your light by your words and your works, you are showing off who God is. You are glorifying your Father who is in heaven. So then, when you proclaim with your lips and practice with your life, you are proving the reality of God. Now, some Christians' testimony are sort of like candles, a quiet, warm, inviting glow that just sort of draws people in. They're not as vocal, they're not as overt, but it's a steady, quiet witness. Others are a little bolder. They're more like the city set upon a hill. They constantly shine, constantly message, constantly direct people out of the darkness to the light. But then there are some people who are obnoxious in their light shining. It's like the kid who shines flashlights in people's faces. That was Skip Heitzig when he was a kid. Whatever your temperament or personality, just make sure that you are giving God a good name, glorifying your Father who is in heaven. So to sum it all up then, I'll leave you with a few takeaways. First off, we're different. We're different. Darkness, light. Decay, salt. We are different. Peter says you are foreigners and strangers in this world. One version says you are peculiar people. And I know some Christians who are a little more peculiar than others. But our Lord said we are in this world, but we are not of this world. So just as the nature of light is very different from the nature of darkness, we have this new redeemed nature. We celebrate the fact that we are not darkness, but we are light in the Lord. So we're different. Second quick takeaway, we are noticed. Jesus said here that they may see your good works. Now that indicates to me that people in the world are watching us very carefully, scrutinizing us. In fact, the moment you say, I am a Christian, they're going to kind of lean into that and go, oh, really? I'll be the judge of that. And Jesus gave them permission. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples, by the love that you have. Paul in Philippians 2 said that you may become blameless and harmless children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. Harmless, blameless, without fault, among whom you shine as lights of the world. In other words, if the world is going to say anything bad about you, it's because they have to make it up. That's how you ought to live. They have to make it up. So we're different, we're noticed. Third, we are responsible. Our responsibility is to lift high the lamp. Let our light so shine. 1 John chapter 4, no one has ever seen God, but if we love each other, God lives in us and his love is brought to full expression in us. So once again, our love makes the invisible God visible. In World War II, a lot of towns were bombed, but one little village in France was bombed pretty badly. In the town square was a statue, had been a statue of Christ with his hands out. And in his hands were the nail prints. It was front and center in this little village in France. Well, it was bombed and the statue was broken to pieces. After the war, they tried to rebuild the town. They were pretty successful, but they wanted to find the pieces to that statue and assemble it back together. So they found all the parts of the statue except for the hands. And they thought, well, those hands are pretty important because they're outstretched. The nail prints are in them. They tell the story of the love of Christ, but they searched and searched and could not find those hands anywhere. One day, one of the locals in town made a little sign and hung it up on the statue where the arms were. And the sign read, "He has no hands but ours." That's the message. He has no hands but ours. He has no eyes but ours. He has no ears but ours. He has no feet but ours. We are called the body of Christ. We are his representation on the earth. Now, this love bomb thing that we've been doing for 10 years, you always notice it's Valentine's Day weekend. So it's pretty easy to figure out that the day people celebrate love, we're going to drop the love bomb. But did you know that there was in history a man whom this day is named after called Valentine, Valentinius of Rome? He was a Christian clergyman. It said, performed marriages secretly for people when such things were banned. But he was killed, this Christian clergyman, Valentinius of Rome, was killed by the emperor, Roman Emperor Claudius, because he helped Christians who had been imprisoned, helped them to escape. So, every year we are celebrating a Christian dedicated to setting the captives free. It's so appropriate to drop the love bomb on the day where we are celebrating a Christian dedicated to setting the captives free. John Wesley summed it up the best. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can.
Thank you so much for joining us for this message from Calvary Church with Skip Heitzig. We would love to know how this teaching impacted you. Share your story with us. Email mystory@calvarynm.church. And if you'd like to support this Bible teaching ministry with a financial gift, visit calvarynm.church/give.